not react every time, not to change something every time outside when it starts to get uncomfortable. And you endure. It's also a kind of endurance that you prolong, like, okay, it's too cold, so then you're freezing instead of, kind of fiddling around with it, you leave it. But you can't just leave it, so it's like there needs to be a meaning why you leave it. And this is what we very often forget. I mean, this is the thing. It's like, the moment you see a meaning in it, it becomes easier. I'm not saying easy, but at least easier. So for example, you say, okay, I'm cold, but other people, they enjoy this food. Well, we're all different. So for their sake, let it be like that. Then if you're alone in the room, you can also think, okay, I am using it as a tool to practice patience, and then you start to feel, the wish to change something. Then that's still okay. But then there is the resistance to your non-reaction to changing something. Then you start to look at this, and then you try to dissolve that by just being aware of it. Or, as we did yesterday, I am this feeling of tension or impatience. Or like, something in here. First you identify it, you look at it. And you look at it for quite a while because you see that it's dynamic, it is changing. And if you look at it long enough, even though it's still cold, it shows its nature. The nature of? Huh? Nothing. Emptiness. It disappears. Sometimes it takes a long time. But if you keep feeding it with those, oh, it's cold, oh, it's cold, oh, it's cold, then you go to look, where is cold? Where is the cold? You kind of, you examine the feeling of cold or hot. Where is it? What is that? What is it? That also shows its nature. It takes a while for the nature to come up. But it's quite amazing. And unfortunately, we only do it when we have no more ways of changing anything. And usually we have a way of changing something outside. But it's quite magic, actually, this whole thing. These steps that you're doing, yeah? First you pause, you look inside, you identify the feeling, and then you look at it. So that would be, so you see the cold as, this is going to help me being more patient. So that's the first kind of patience with outside things. Now if they're dangerous, please don't be patient. If you feel like, you sit somewhere or meditate, you're like, oh, smoke. Smoke, oh, getting warmer. Then you open your eyes and you see, oh, smoke coming, and you say, okay, I'm going to practice patience. No, I mean, there's probably a fire in your house, and so you better get up and put it out. Yeah. So again, there's limits to just endure, but then again, when do I stop? This is like, both of us are sitting together eating lunch, and you are asking me, do you think I've eaten enough? I don't know. Yeah. Where the limit is, where you then change something or not, again, the calmer your mind is, the more open your mind is, the more courageous you are, the more you look at difficult situations as a chance to practice, the longer you will be able to endure. But endure is not gritting your teeth and thinking about impermanence. Endurance is you are able to relax into the situation, accepting it. And that, as you grow older and towards death, that will be so valuable. That ability that because then you can't change anything outside anymore. And as you see, you go along as you get older, I don't hear anymore well, and I have an artificial knee, this is why I can't sit properly, this one knee hurts, and it's not getting better, it's just getting worse. When you are young, you still have this thing, it will heal, this is why I'm not so disturbed by it. But as you are going along and these signs of old age are showing, well, it's just getting worse. So then instead of going into panic, you think, okay, it will get worse, but now it's still okay. I can still walk, I can still hear. We have one very famous in Switzerland, Fred von. Even with his 2 machines, he can't hear anymore, almost nothing. So, but you and me, for the moment, not in a good way, but I can still hear it. So we start to relaxing like this by accepting, okay, it's not good, but also it could be worse. This one thing, it could be worse. I mean, it's so powerful, because then we relax. Yeah. Okay, so that's the first kind of patience. Do you have questions there for that? Or is it clear? And we have plenty of opportunities. Somebody gets on your nerves in the supermarket because they're too slow, or in the traffic, or in whatever. Or boom, then you're driving, it gets red, and you unconsciously we think that somebody's sitting there and watching that I just came and now they push the button, now it's red, they did it on purpose. It's like we always feel the victim when it just gets red when we get there. There is this kind of strange feeling that why now? Not here. You see, if these things would be conscious thoughts, we would really see how ridiculous this is. Then instead, and then you have a moment of upsetness. So then, of course, every time it gets red, you get upset. So when you see the red light, you say, "Oh, good, I'll be protected from being hit, and it will be easy to cross the junction because also the others will go there." Things like this, or look around and see everybody else kind of having to wait because it's red. These kind of things, and go into this feeling of, because also in the morning traffic, we are convinced that we are the only ones who are in a hurry. A total instinctive feeling that I am the only one who is in a hurry, isn't it? I'm the only one who needs really urgently a parking spot. In the city, if there's public transport, and if it is possible, tell you take the bus. Good for the environment, good for your nerves. You get off where you need to get off, no need to look for a parking lot, nobody can steal your car where it is, a parking lot in, how much does it cost, 25 shekel or something? For a few hours, bus tickets, 5.90. Yeah, I know it's inconvenient. Maybe you have to look when is the bus going. That is true. You lose some of your freedom when you take public transport. And yeah, people can get on your nerves who don't behave the way you want them to behave. Also, sometimes me at the beginning, I had this feeling that. Not right at the beginning, my 5 years being a nun, so we were doing these preordination courses where we were training new ordained people. So I had this unconscious feeling that I'm the Sangha police, that if some Sangha outside is not behaving the way they should behave, that I have to tell them. All of a sudden came to me, hey, you're not the Sangha police, come on, what are you doing? Let them do whatever they want to do, as long as they're not harming anybody, if they're just dressed in the wrong way or whatever. It's okay, but I needed to see it, that I had this wish to tell others what to do. Do you feel that wish in you sometimes also? No, eh? What? I wish to tell others what they should do? Nah, it's unheard of, yeah. Yeah, it's like we have that, it's quite obsessive, isn't it, too? How they should behave, because we have heard all these beautiful teachings, so we know how they should behave. We need to tell them. Okay. Then the second kind of patience is tolerance and patience for those who have harmed you. Patience, tolerance, patience for those who have harmed you. Like a very strong, that needs to be developed also, because the instinct is like, they criticize me, I criticize back. If not directly with them, but behind their back. This is a Swiss thing, we're very polite. Opposed to the Germans. The Germans say what they think. It's so much easier to communicate with them. The Swiss, you never know. So then there's this joke, the German speaking to the Swiss, and the German says, You would tell me if something is disturbing in me. You would tell. You would tell, wouldn't you, if there's something that disturbs you? And then the Swiss says, yes, of course I would, but I wouldn't tell you. I think it's not only Swiss, it's especially Swiss. I can talk like this because I'm Swiss, so I know how we are. And I can see it, we don't have the courage, it's not polite. It's a bit like Asia also. Ooh, never ever please criticize an Asian person in front of somebody else. It's like killing them. It's so bad, so please don't do it, and be very skillful when you need to criticize somebody. Like the Chinese proverb who says, if you need to shoot the arrow of truth, you need to dip it into honey. That means first you make a compliment to build the person up, and then you say what you need to say. It's complicated for us. Because I was in Japan, and then very quickly I learned, I spoke a little bit of Japanese, all gone, but I learned a little bit, and then when they say either shikachi or takara, then you have to listen. Before is all honey stuff, it's not important. But then comes therefore or but. I think shikashi is therefore and but is takara. So then oh, now I have to listen. Yeah. So they're very skillful in that. So then we are instead of just, barging in with the criticism, first you open up the person, you make them feel comfortable, then they can listen in a better way also. Yeah, so it's very skillful. And again, it's very skillful. It can be done to manipulate others, or it can be done for their benefit, and that depends on your motivation. Yeah, so like that. So patience is a mind that says, yes, you have harmed me. So we recognize that. We're not making, oh, but it's my karma, and I deserve it, and now I can practice patience. It's true, but it can be used as an excuse also, and then you don't feel good. Your ego is not happy with these kind of arguments. It's much better to say, yes, you have harmed me. Not to the person, to yourself. I have been harmed. It's okay. It hurts. It's okay. Yeah. So, but at all costs, I don't want to harm back. So we need to strengthen that kind of thing. At all costs, I don't want to harm back. And then we need to really, my mother used to say, put water in your mouth, yeah, because then you cannot speak. Yeah. Then also sometimes they say count to 10.
We have a saying in Hebrew.
The water in your mouth. Okay. Yeah, so it's a good thing, because when you can't say anything. And then it's this thing from the teachings. First, pause. And then we listen to Viktor Frankl, who says, between stimulation and reaction, there's a little gap. In that gap, you create your happiness or your suffering for the future. But the gap, we need to be mindful to see the gap. And we need to be aware that we do have a choice. We have a choice, but we usually choose the tendency choice, or the habitual choice, and then we go there. Yeah? So patience is not patiently waiting and, freezing until the situation is over or until the person has died. Patience is a mind that at all costs does not want to harm others by harming back, and yourself by rehashing the story all the time. Yeah, they use this example with the poisoned arrows, like Buddha. Like somebody shooting a poisoned arrow at you, but he's not such a good shot. Like words are like poisoned arrows, but the poison is our mind who is creating the poison, because it's just words. It's words. If you hear the word directed at somebody that you dislike, these very same words make you happy. If they're directed at you or somebody that you like, these very same words make you unhappy and you feel hurt. If the words are just said like this, no reaction. So that's meant by the arrow is not hitting. Yeah, it is a bit like us, almost catching the arrow in the middle, and it would go that way, but we catch it and then we go like that. And then we go, look what he has done. Yeah, and then we rehash the story. And rehashing the story is like, the arrow is lying here. So in the middle of the night, but we keep it. We don't throw it away. We kind of keep it. In the middle of the night comes up, we go like, yes, it hurts. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it hurts. I don't want to have pain, but yes, it hurts. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it hurts. Yeah, we are a bit like that. And somehow, in a very perverse way, we seem to enjoy it. Now we find it funny. You see, now you're not in the situation where it's actually happening. So now we can see the reality of it, how ridiculous it is, and it actually makes us laugh. But when you're in the middle of it, or a friend of you comes and says, just give me the arrow. You know, we're not going to talk about it anymore. No, I want to keep it. Yeah. This is ego grasping. Because it makes the ego, this I that doesn't exist from its own side, it makes it very real and very strong. Because then it appears like separate from body and mind. And poor me, and you have to look after me. And then also, you know, also very often if somebody makes a mistake, there seems to be a general agreement that you are allowed to get angry at them. Wherever did you read that in any constitution? But there seems to be a universal agreement that, especially if somebody that you dislike makes a mistake, you are allowed to vomit all your frustration onto them. Does that happen in this country? No, here it happens a bit the other way around, actually, I noticed. Somebody who's making the mistake is vomiting their frustration on you. Yeah? Have you ever noticed that? Before you can vomit your frustration, they vomit theirs. This happened to me one time, and I was very surprised. And I said, look, but you made the mistake, and I'm not angry at you, so why are you angry at me? I didn't accuse you of anything. Yeah, so it's like that. It's a defense mechanism where, you know, very, very quick. A very good way is when you do make a mistake, then you say, oop, I made a mistake. You know. And also to really say, I didn't do it on purpose. I don't like to make mistakes. You know, I have too much arrogance to liking to make mistakes because it makes me feel small when I make mistakes. My arrogance goes out of the window, has no reason to be arrogant. So, yeah, and if you admit, then also very often there's no anger coming from that side because the anger doesn't need to prove to you that you made a mistake. It's just say, yeah, I made a mistake. You know what, there's a very, very nice YouTube clip of Tenzin Palmo, Tsulti Malione, the two, and they're talking about abuse of Tibetan masters. Because it happens. Tibetan masters abusing sexually and power like women. So they said, if for the group not to fall apart, what is really important is that these lamas admit. And don't just say, you know, in a kind of bit not so clear way, yes, I'm very sorry if I hurt your feelings. You know, this is like, it wasn't in my intention or whatever. But they really need to say, for people to heal with these things, they have to hear from the aggressor, yes, I know I did it, and I'm sorry or not sorry. It's not even that is important. But that they don't have to, that they are heard and they are believed. This is the thing. It's a very nice thing. And then, but also, it is your master. He opened the door to the Dharma for you. So also, you know, you don't need to have contact with it. It's advice for people when it happens to you. So it's very helpful. I found it very good. If you go YouTube, you go Tenzin Palmo Tsulti Malione, you will find it's short talk. And you know, Tenzin Palmo. So the question comes and she goes like, oh, yeah, so like that. So not harming back, by the way, doesn't mean that you're not saying anything. In case something like this happens, be it your master, be it your friend, be it your father, be it your uncle, be it whoever, you know, be it your mother. It can also women who abuse male, yeah. Like the other day, a man told me, he said, you know, it's very difficult to be a man these days because you're alone with a woman in an elevator. I mean, you don't know where to look because so quickly it's kind of, look, yeah, so It is happening. I'm not saying it's not happening. That women get abused much more than men, but also the men feel bad about this, especially the men who don't abuse. Well, how do you feel, Nif, when you see a man abusing, or when you hear it? You're disturbed by it because you identify yourself with this group of people. Yeah? And it happens far too often, still now. Still now. I tell you, if you don't have any power, I tell you, be happy. Because power over others is so dangerous when you are not realized. It is so quickly abused. Not only sexual abuse, but like verbal abuse and putting them down and these kinds of things, especially when you are unhappy. Oof. Yeah. So, what I mean to say, not harming them back. It doesn't mean that you should not say what happened, and you just say, okay, my karma. No, because you also, as a bodhisattva here, you have a duty so that they can stop doing these things. So it needs to come out at all means. Okay, so that's the second tolerance. That one is already more difficult than the other, because there we feel justified. We feel very, very justified. You know, this righteous ego, I, me, is like, oh, now finally, even as a Buddhist, I have the opportunity to be angry. And because we bottle it up, then of course it wants to come out. And very often we turn it into righteous anger. So the third one is having patience with the Dharma. That's a nice one. Being patient with your practice. Not giving up when it doesn't work after 10 years. You know? I think if you are going to groups and if you continue to practice, you do these spiritual practices for 5 years, but really going to talks, going to a group, and then you're pretty stable. I think then it becomes part of your life, you're okay. But in these first 5 years, you really have to be careful that you push yourself to go, even though you don't feel like going, if you want to continue. Of course, if you don't want to continue, then it's fine. You go find something else, that is fine. But with the Dharma, we need a lot of patience because transformation is very, very slow. So also Shantideva says, if you don't have patience, then you start one thing, do not finish, you start another, and you become very discontent. Very low self-esteem, very quickly. So again, with patience, you just continue. You endure. You put off unpleasant things, you get frustrated, unsatisfied, mixed up. Don't know if any of you remember when Gachin Rinpoche was here the first time, and he was teaching this text from Naropa that he got from Tilopa. Do you remember? It was in Tual. And Gachin Rinpoche the text started, Naropa, you the fortunate one. And me, of course, I think, of course, very fortunate. He's living with his main teacher, his heart guru, and such a strong relationship, and then it's very easy to practice. I was just thinking it like this. And then Gachin Rinpoche says, do you know what it means being fortunate? And of course I didn't answer. And then he said, the one who is able to bear hardships. And I thought, that's what it means. So that's it, If you see that you are able to bear hardships, you are so fortunate. Because your life becomes so easy, because hardships, they're everywhere. But the more sensitive we are, and there are people who are very sensitive. I'm not saying, there's no point you tell them, pull yourself together. They are sensitive. They're not doing it on purpose. They experience it like that. Or children, when there's a certain taste, because also taste totally distorted. So if they don't like a certain thing, that they experience it as disgusting. It's not just whims. It's also because their taste buds are very strong. Yeah? Like me, when I was a kid, cheese for me was the worst that you could have given me. I thought it was so disgusting. And my father, because he liked it so much, he forced me to eat it. Oh gosh, it was hell. Yeah? So that's what I mean. It's like, we don't have a choice whether we are sensitive or not sensitive. And for sensitive people, life is very difficult. But you can slowly transform by slowly, with very little steps for those people who are very sensitive. Again, not just to stop them, I'm sensitive, but to recognize, yes, I'm sensitive, so I have to be careful. And then you make these little steps, staying for another minute when it's uncomfortable, or half a minute, and then extending it like this. But recognizing that you're sensitive, but not using it for not to practice. Okay, do you see what I mean? And for you people who have sensitive people around you, please try to understand. And then also see the difficulty that this person has, that can't stand the heat, for example. Can't stand the cold, or can't stand whatever. The noise, or smells. Some people are very sensitive for smells. Some other people are very sensitive to noise. So it doesn't mean that you're especially strong because you're not disturbed by noise or smells or whatever. It just means that your senses are not very good. Yeah? That's all. So no need to be proud about those things. They're putting on an act. No, they're not putting on an act. Some maybe do, but it's none of your concern. Yeah? But try to be patient with them when they get very impatient because of the situations around them. Do you know sensitive people?
Sure.
Do you think they have an easy life? Would you like to be like them? No, could be you. They didn't choose it. They didn't choose to have problems with every little thing. It's just karma, and it's maybe residues. Now thinking and talking like this is for the Buddhists, maybe residues from lower states. Because they say in the hell realms, your body is very, very sensitive. And the outside conditions are even much worse than what we have. So you have these two things who increase. Maybe some residues from there. But now in a human body, you have the opportunity to change it. And here also it says, be moderate, what you can do at first. So do the things you can do. Instead of wishing and hoping for big things that you can do, then you don't be disappointed, then you're not disappointed, and disappointment, comes from attachment that we think should be fast and high goals and this. High ideals and high goals, it can really break you. So it's okay to have a high goal, but really understand it needs a lot of effort to get there. And even if you only make little steps, be happy about the little steps that you're making. And be reasonable. And then be happy with the small results. And then the progress becomes much better, much faster. So just to finish, and then maybe we do a reflection on that. So again, this is from psychology, it's not from Buddhist, but it works really well. So when you feel you're starting to get impatient, when you're mindful, you feel it, yeah? And usually it's enough, it collapses. So the first thing is always, you take your attention away from the object. And you go inside. The mind cannot have too many focal points. Actually, you can only have one at the moment. So maybe you still see the person, but your mind is not with it anymore, so you go inside. How do I feel? So they call this zoom out. Come back inside. Yeah? And then you start to really, how does it feel? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it pushing? Is it pulling? No. And also to then, when you have calmed down a little bit, and this tightness in here has gone a bit, that to really check, does this situation now have a real impact on my life? Like the whole life, not just now. Yes, it has an impact now, but on my life. Does it have? Because very often, totally exaggerated, we explode or we get angry. Sometimes, there's two things. We either implode or we explode. So both of it is not very skillful. Then when you see, okay, she took my parking space, or there's in my parking lot, then you go, well, maybe not so bad. And then you reconnect, then you come back. You start to release the body sensation, relax, see resistance to it. Yeah? Then you zoom in again, be fully present in the moment without judging. That's difficult. Either you judge yourself because you're not patient, or you judge the other, or da 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 da. I think what works for me always is when I think, hey,